How does that play a part in funding? So when you're looking at collaborating with other organisations and aligning yourself with people who have got the same purpose as you, and kind of can fit in where you are not as strong. So like, for example, the mental health, and then looking at employability and bringing them two together. Do you think that it positively impacts your ability to get funding?
100%. When you're starting up and you're building up your credibility, it's important to see who the big boys are in your space. So for instance, obviously me and you have gone to have meetings with Mind, as an example. Mind are a nationally recognized organization. So when you align yourself with somebody like that, those people that have got a racist mindset who hold the purse strings, they're more kind of
willing.
What's the word? Willing, that's the word. Willing to contract you as that black organization, because you've got a partner that they're comfortable with. You've got a partner that's got a track record. You've got a partner that has a reach nationally. But so it works for both parties. Now for Mind, in terms of partnering somebody like us, what they're looking for is that cultural competence.
Yes.
So they might have the money, they might have the resources, but they might not necessarily have the understanding of what's stopping a young black person from progressing. Do you know what I mean? And that's our biggest value. Our biggest value as social entrepreneurs, as black social entrepreneurs, is that cultural competence. That's invaluable. So you will get the big boys coming to you to partner with you on that basis.
Yeah.
It's a 50-50 partnership. And obviously as you go on, you build up your reputation, then you become that go-to organization. So for instance, as we, where we are now, 7-8 years on, we're in a position now to be the lead.
Yes. And
have smaller kind of grassroots organizations underneath us, but obviously it's all interlinked.
Yeah.
So even before I came on this live, Chris, my deputy, sent a proposal to a major company on that basis that we want to be contracted for this amount of money based on us working with 19 other black-led organizations that do different things. Yeah. So they're looking at thinking, okay, that's 20 organizations altogether. They're working with one aim, different specialisms, but they're all working in a holistic way, join that way. So now again, we definitely might consider giving you that money based on that alone. So these are the little things you learn that actually make a big difference.
100%. And I know that when we went to have the conversation with Mind, the reason why it was good for them to lead on that project, because the amount of money that they were going to be funding for that project was they wouldn't have taken the risk on access at that time. So they said, okay, we'll give you the money, but Mind will control the purse strings. Do you know what I mean? And
absolutely.
When you're delivering.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it doesn't matter, because obviously if you've got a relationship with Mind or whoever it is your partner is, there's a no-brainer. They obviously trust you that you can deliver. It's more of a personal relationship rather than some anonymous funder that doesn't know anything about you.
Yeah.
Doesn't know anything about what you're doing. So yeah.
Because when you're looking at that and comparing that, what we're talking about here, when you're either the lead applying for funding or somebody else is the lead, we're talking about, if you compare it in the private sector in general, it's like having a guarantor, isn't it? To say,
absolutely,
if the person doesn't do it, I'm going to pay for their mistake, basically. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's a psychology about this that people need to understand. And this is all part of the learning. Like I said, again, I never had anybody to teach me these things. I learned it as I went along. And that's why, again, I'm making a point of sharing that information with anybody I can, because I want them to avoid mistakes that I made. 110%.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, again, it points back to this, like a lot of what you're saying here now, and I hope people are kind of taking note about it. A lot of what we've spoken about, I think, like different meetings we may have gone to or different funding you've got, that fundamentally, the way that you've got all of this funding come through was through building the right connections and the right relationship with the right people in your community. and being able
Absolutely.
to trust among each other to say, look, we are going to both go in and we're going to both deliver on what we said we're going to deliver, so that we can build up a good track record here. Because a lot of it with funding as well is based on outcomes. They don't just want to know, you know, how did the people feel? What actually happened? Did they get a job? Did they go to college? Did they start their own business? And when you have like a business model, like you said in the beginning, that brings about a tangible outcome instead of, and I know, of course, it matters people's mental health and people's mindset, but they don't care about that. They care about, if I send them to you, are you going to take them off benefits? Are you going to stop me from having to pay for them? Are you going to turn them into a contributor in terms of paying taxes? And if you can
Absolutely,
that model is going to turn into a contribution, they're actually making an investment. So they don't mind giving £3,000 to you so that that person can pay £7,000 in taxes for the rest of their
100%.
life every year.
It's a no-brainer. It's a no. I mean, look, what made me laugh is that when we got our first contract from the government, they were very reluctant. Sorry, they was very reluctant to turn on the light again. They was very reluctant to you know, hey, I'm not as light as you. We need some real light in there. You know what I mean? But you want to see some silhouette. Anyway. Yeah. So yeah, they were very reluctant because what it was is that they had no faith in a black-led organization delivering on that particular kind of agenda of reducing black youth unemployment in Haringey or anywhere else for that matter, right? Because they looked at it like, okay, it's a black area, quote unquote. Got lots of black people that live there. There's providers that live here, that sort of operate from here. So they looked at a very basic level. Okay, there's providers, there's black people. Put them together. What's the problem? What they don't understand is that that's a very simplistic way of looking at it. Yeah. When you go to these providers, what is it they're doing that's different from, you know, a Work Directions, a Ingis, a Coda, all these companies that deal with employability? What is it they're doing that's different? Nothing. So unless you tailor your solutions to fit the challenges that black people face, then it's pointless. You must just be another mainstream provider. So we locked onto that. We knew the challenges that specifically affect young black people, and we provided tailored solutions to fit that. Yeah. And that's what you call cultural competence. Is understanding your people, understanding the challenges, and having a direct solution for that. So that's what I kept on working on to make sure we were distinct. So for instance, you go to a lot of organizations that will do motivational stuff, okay? Generic motivational stuff that's good for anybody, right? But for us, we said our motivation is teaching these young people their history. Yeah. So instead of getting a conventional person coming in, doing the usual, typical self-esteem, motivational stuff in classes, workshops, we said, no, let's do it more of a tailored approach, have black history as a catalyst for their motivation. Because once they understand where they're coming from, the natural self-esteem would naturally grow it from that anyway. Because they're learning things that they've never heard of or never been taught before. So that was how we approached it. So in the beginning, we worked with a lot of historians like, you know, Robin Walker and various other people that we knew in the community that were historians. We also worked with a lot of psychologists and so forth. So it was all making sure we tweaked our offer to fit the black service user, which you're not going to get in the job center or all these, you know, European-led organizations. You're not going to get that. You're just going to get some generic one-size-fits-all service. Exactly. I just want to do a shout out as well. So we've got Absolute King in the house, Sheldon. He has got an organisation called AA Islington. So anyone watching this on the playback, check it out. He's also a social. He's got a social enterprise, so also a social entrepreneur. Yeah, definitely as well. I'll
connect you as well, Nan, with him after, because he's really, really cool. He's got loads of good things going on too.
Excellent, excellent, excellent.
But yeah, in terms of like what you were kind of speaking about in terms of business models and stuff like that, and having a niche, this is the same in any business. Like, you have to see a problem and you have to have a niche that you are able to kind of fit into. And especially when you're looking at going for funding or applying for contracts, if you're going to be generic about it and you're not going to be specific, then you're also going up against people that are not the same colour as you if you're black. And there is systemic racism everywhere. So you're also putting yourself at a disadvantage by trying to shy away from focusing on black
100%.
people. Yeah.
100%. And that comes from a lack of acumen. Yeah? Business acumen. So let me give an example. About 6 years ago, I got contacted by a black politician.
Yeah.
And he was saying to me, he asked me a question. He said, look, how come it's so difficult to find black practitioners that deal with black kids? And I said, Minister, it's very simple. You know, most black organizations are trying to be as European as possible, so nobody knows they're black-led, because being known as a black-led organization is not seen as a strength.
Yeah. 100%.
But I said to him, I deliberately went left from that to create my own lane.
Yeah.
Because if I tried to be like all the big players, like you just alluded to, I would have been drowned out, or Access UK would be drowned out. Because what's the distinction between you and them? They've got more resources than you. They've got more manpower. So, like, it's nonsense. So I knew we had to be different. And that was our USP. That was our unique selling point. And that's the reason why the big boys were always hitting us up, especially, obviously, towards the more recent years, to partner up. If I tell you some of the names that I've tried to partner up with us, people think, oh, okay, like, how did you manage to do that? It's not magic. It's just having a certain level of business acumen to see how these things play out. For the last 2 or 3 months since George was killed in America, I'm having, like, on average, about 2 Zooms a day with major corporations around the world, right? Major corporations that they could go to, mainstream providers that more well-known than us, got more money, but they're not going to them because they know these organizations are not culturally competent. We are. We understand the issue. So because it's directly aligned with improving the lot of blacks and young black kids, it's a no-brainer for them. So they're coming to us to have these meetings and see what we can work out together. So for me, all the planning, all the kind of research that I've done 7, 8 years ago has all borne fruit now. When people thought that, you know, the idea was, some people just thought the idea was pointless because it was focused on young black kids or young black people. But like I said, when you've got a business brain, it's clear. It's not even complicated. It's very, very clear. There was a need. We were going to provide a need. We're going to create our own lane. And through that alone, the money would inevitably come down the line. So that's exactly what's happened.
So I think the point that keeps on coming out here that I want people to get, if they're trying to become a social entrepreneur, they want to set up a social enterprise and they want to get funded, is that although you are doing it because there is a heartfelt passion there needs to be a clear strategic plan as well. It has 100%. To be, you have to speak, because even people who are in charge of, you know, commissioning contracts or giving funding, they've got a corporate brain on. They've not got the same brain on that people have got who work in the voluntary sector. So for them, they're looking at things and it has to make business sense for them.
100%.
You know?
But see, the problem is people often feel guilty when they're dealing with social issues, but they're also thinking on a business level. They feel there's a contradiction there. They honestly think, you know, so a lot of people say, oh yeah, well, I've done this for free, and they think it sounds good.
I know.
They think it actually sounds good that they're saying, I've done this for free and I gave up my time. Yeah, on a basic level it does. But when you're in a system which is designed against you in terms of accessing these funds, you have to be innovative.
Yeah.
You have to think outside the box. You have to think of a structure that deals with more of what you're going to do or what you have done than what you're promising to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a slight difference. And I think I think certain European charities can get away with that, but black charities or black social enterprises cannot get away with that. They can't get away with it. No.
Because as well, remember, a lot of the times, like, you know, pre-getting the funding, like there's been meetings where you and I have had to sit in front of people face to face and explain what it is that we're going to do and stuff like that. They can also sniff out whether or not you're someone that they can manipulate into dropping the amount of funding that you're asking for. And they will always push you to do it. So if you're someone, how many times they're like, you sure you need that much money? Well, yeah, actually, for sure. Do you get what I mean? But if you're the person who feels guilty for asking for money, for doing something purposeful, then you're gonna crash under that, and you would have gone in asking for 250,000. You'll come out asking for 25 grand, and they'll be happy to sign that. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's a totally different ball game because they're ruthless now as well, the way that they conduct themselves, and because they try to word it in a way like I remember sitting in a meeting with you. And at the height of like just rife stabbings in Wood Green, and we're talking about a program that's going to address employability and going to address the issue of like gang crime, and they're going, I don't understand what you're saying. And then there's some other guy sitting next to us going, I'm going to run a pilot scheme and maybe they can work in Morgan's. And they're like, yeah, this is good. And you're like, what the hell is going on here? But that's how they are. They try and swindle you and make them gaslight you and make you think there's not a problem. Like they'll look you in the face like, my crime? Really? I thought it was just a problem with employment. And you're like, oh. But you have to play the game. You have to go in there and you learn very quickly. They couldn't care less if black youths are dying on the street. But what they do care about is if they're vandalising shops or if, do you know what I mean? They're not going to work. Or, so you structure things in a way that hits both things, you know, like you still care about the important stuff, but you do what they want to do as well.
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny that you use that particular conversation as an example. Yeah. You know, one of the biggest myths that's out there is that, you know, youth violence or gangs is an exclusively black problem, right? Yeah. So a lot of the times when I was engaging these people, I made it clear of what the actual data says. The data. Now, the data says that it's a problem that's impacting on everybody. In fact, Glasgow, like I said in my last interview with you, Glasgow was the knife crime capital of Europe. Yeah. Up until recently. Yeah. And there's not many people that look like me and you that live in Glasgow. Right? So that's a statistical fact. So once they know that these problems are impacting on everybody, then there's more of a buy-in to actually helping. Because let's face facts. Black lives does not matter to the system. Yeah. Yeah? Doesn't. It's a fact. That's why people go around saying Black lives matter. Because evidently it doesn't. All the data, everything says the opposite. So once people understand that these things are having a social impact on everybody, whether, for example, is that girl, remember the young girl that got stabbed and killed in a park in Essex, I think it was about a year or two ago. Yeah. Right? That year, I remember that year because the New Year's Eve, there was a few stabbings. And then in literally the first month of January, the first four people that were killed by a knife were all white.
And didn't Theresa May then say something about it? Like, oh, this needs to stop or something? Like,
Of course. Because white lives matter, isn't it? Yeah. White lives matter. So, therefore, it's a case of making sure that's clear within your proposals. Yeah. Yeah? Make it very, very clear. If you know that's a trigger to get the resources or the kind of delivery, you have to highlight the facts. Just like Akala did when he went to GMTV, he broke it down properly for them, right? Because Piers was adamant on pushing out the propaganda, the nonsense about, you know, black criminality, you know, black kids killing each other. Yeah, you know, you might have that situation in London where you know, the 50% of the population are quote unquote BAME, which is black, Asian, minority, ethnic. right? You might have that issue, but go to Sheffield, go to Glasgow, go to Newcastle, go to Reading, go to wherever, you see that is primarily young white boys that are killing each other. Not black boys. That's a fact.
Yeah.
So it's about creating a bridge, a unity based on a common problem, which is youth violence. Instead of like they try to play these little funny little division games, and then use that as a reason not to fund black organizations, because if they they buy into the nonsense of it's a black problem.
Yeah, definitely. And so we're coming as well to the last 5 minutes. So if anyone's got any questions, feel free to kind of drop them in. But I think we've covered a lot today in terms of just the steps and processes, some hints and tips of things that maybe you wish you would have looked at differently in the beginning, and how people can be looking at things, going forward for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said,
like now, you're obviously 7 years in now, and you know the industry. Do you advise more black people to become social entrepreneurs? What's your general opinion on it?
110%. Because look, we're now in a recession that's going to be this is according to government experts, it's going to be the deepest recession ever, right? Black people are already in a bad shape in this country in terms of employment. That's going to get dramatically worse in the next year or two. So if you've got a social entrepreneur brain and business acumen, this is the best time ever to get into that market. Because what a social entrepreneur does is provide solutions for social issues. It's a no-brainer. So in terms of opportunities, most people make their money or become do well when there are times like this. It's not when everything's hunky-dory and everything's sweet, and it's when there's challenges. And then people become innovative, they think outside the box. It's about creating opportunities for yourself rather than relying on the state to feed you and look after you. So you can't get a better time now to become a social entrepreneur than now. Yeah,
because obviously now issues that were maybe not as highlighted, but like there will be a rise in mental health, when there'll be a rise in like anything related to kind of like self-esteem. There'll be a rise in unemployment. There'll be a rise in, do you get what I mean? All these type of things that actually there'll be a rise in crime. There will be a rise in crime. If we're going to go deep into recession, more crimes will happen. So, it's inevitable, right? So all of these things can be addressed. Yeah, I'm glad that you said that as well, because I think that, sometimes as like in the black community, you just need people, which is why I wanted to interview you, telling you how it can be done and encouraging you to do it. Do you get what I mean? Because when you haven't got a face that is normal to put to something you want to do, and the people that you've got an aspiration but no one looks like you, it's kind of like you just don't think enough,
It's hard because, like I said, there's successful individuals in our community all across the country, but they're not visible. Yeah, they're not visible. So if they're not visible, how are you meant to inspire people if you're there working in a silo? So it's very, very important to connect the dots of that on that basis alone. Yeah, very, very important to share the knowledge and guidance, so we become a unit. Because as I always say repeatedly, the reason why we're always marching and complaining and signing petitions is that dependency on the state. Yeah, for jobs, for this and for that. Once you become self-sufficient as a group of people, the complaining and the marching becomes less and less and less, because you're providing for yourself, and everything else becomes a bonus. So that's what it is. We need to realize Einstein defined madness as doing the same things repeatedly, expecting different results. And that's what we've been doing for a long time in Europe and in this country, and we've achieved nothing. In fact, many of our parents and their parents would say that black people in the UK have regressed, not progressed, regressed as a group of people with economic clout. Yeah, we've regressed. So it's all about building that up, community, unity, doing things together, collaboratively, and seeing what happens from there.
100%. Well,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's going to be really useful for anyone wanting to get in to become a social entrepreneur. So it's great you've taken your time out to just answer the questions in a way that everyone can understand as well. Because look, you Google this stuff and the information that comes up, like it's literally like insane in terms of the amount of research you would need to do to find out things that actually are now quite simple to explain in, you know, easy terms for people, because it's a whole different sector. There's a whole different terminology to understand, different jargon. Do you get what I mean? And sometimes that is off-putting for people in itself. So
100%, 100%. But you know, it's like I said, once you have somebody there you can go to get that information, it makes it easier, because you know it's all about imparting that knowledge and sharing it. Not saying, oh yeah, I'm the big I'm the expert in this, and looking down on people or hold it all to yourself, because it serves no purpose. If you're a community person, that's what you do naturally. You share the knowledge and you connect with people, because it's not about me as an individual, it's about all of us. Look, my eldest daughter is in uni, okay? She's in uni. Now, I could say, okay, I've got my business, I'm successful, I've got money, I've got this, I've got that. But she could walk out there and somebody who hasn't got the same grounding, same conditioning, could do something to her. Yeah, in the community. So if you have that selfish mentality of me, it's funny how like sometimes how life things play out. So it's about helping people and doing things collaboratively, because that's the essence of community. It's like seeing somebody out there who could be my daughter, who could be my son, who could be my brother, that looks like me, and sharing that love and sharing that knowledge.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And so, yeah, if anyone's kind of watched this on a playback, please share it with people that you think might find it useful. Share it on your story, make a comment, like it, just help it to raise in the algorithm so that we can share the information, because this is another thing that we're trying to do to help our community to advance. I know it's an hour, but it was an hour of very useful information that you may not have known before, and hopefully now will encourage you to think outside the box. And if you've been, you know, working for someone for many years, but you've always been passionate about helping or campaigning for a particular social cause, why not turn it into a business for yourself as well, you know? So
absolutely. Obviously, you might also want to plug what we're looking to do in terms of solidifying this whole thing.
Yeah, so like part of the reason as well why we kind of want to talk to you about the importance of networking and like entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship, because we're going to be launching an organisation to basically help to empower you and give you all the information that you need and the support that you need in order to move forward in whatever realm of life you want to move forward in. So there are loads of things that happen in the Black community that are not the same as in other communities that hold us back. And one of the key ones is just not having that network of people who have been there, done it, worn the t-shirt that you have access to on a one-to-one level. So look out for that, because we'll be launching that in the next few months. It will be a monthly membership group. We'll have free online events each month. You'll have access to people not only in this country, but also in other countries as well, because I'm in talks with people in Spain at the moment to have a look at what they want to do over there. And I've got family in America that also will be interested in kind of launching it. So it's going to be massive, and it's going to be a really reasonable price for you guys as well, especially looking at the content that we'll be delivering and like what you'll be getting from it. So yeah, definitely look out for that.
It's all about sharing best practice. That's the key word, best practice, in terms of, you know, understanding the system, understanding how it works, and how to circumvent the booby traps that are embedded within that system as well. As a Black person, not you know, the generic stuff that you get out there, but as a Black person, how do you circumvent these things? So that's a key. Again, the cultural competence is what we're going to bring to, you know, in that initiative.
Exactly. Okay, and it's counting down on us now. So Yeah, thank you very much for joining. And yeah, have a great week and look out for what we're going to be doing next. Thanks, Nan, for coming on again.
As always, my pleasure.